Aryna Sabalenka is the world number one. 4 Grand Slam titles. The most dominant women's tennis player on the planet right now. The kind of athlete that sponsorship departments are supposed to treat like crown jewels, protected, prioritized, given everything the contract can possibly offer. In November 2025, she went on camera and asked fans to pressure Nike on her behalf. Read that again. The world number one. Publicly appealing to her own fanbase to lobby the brand that signs her checks. Not in a heated press conference moment. Not in an unguarded aside. On camera. Deliberately. Because she had run out of better options. Meanwhile, a 20-year-old Filipino ranked 36 spots below her had flown to Nike's world headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon, spent several days with the design team, and walked out with a custom collection built around the Philippines' national flower. That collection reportedly sold out in roughly 60 seconds. No campaign. No pressure. No Instagram plea directed at the brand. Just a drop, a notification, and 60 seconds before the shelves were empty. What Nike handed Eala, and quietly withheld from the woman who owns the #1 ranking, is the story the tennis world has been circling for months. And by June 3, 2026, when Sabalenka sat in the Paris press room with red eyes and said she wanted to quit tennis, the full picture finally came into focus. The Oregon visit, what it actually was. Eala has been a Nike athlete since 2019. For years, that relationship existed quietly in the background. Standard kit, standard obligations, nothing that demanded particular attention. Then, in late 2025, Nike flew her to Beaverton. The visit produced the Sampaguita collection, a bespoke Nike by U line designed specifically for Eala, built around the Philippines' national flower, complete with a hair accessory shaped like the bloom itself. She posted about it on Instagram with characteristic understatement. Always a blast with my Nike fam. Most of the tennis media filed it away as a pleasant brand moment. A nice story. A diversity-forward marketing beat that would generate a few days of positive coverage and then fade. It was not a nice brand moment. It was Nike making a decision. The same design team that flew Eala to headquarters and built a custom cultural product around her identity was producing nothing remotely equivalent for the player ranked first in the world. And when Roland Garros 2026 arrived on the red clay of Paris, those two parallel tracks collided in the most public, most visible, most impossible to ignore way possible. Paris, the collision, the complaint came first. And it came from Sabalenka herself. On November 11, 2025, in an on-camera promotional clip, the world #1 said, "People loved it, which is important. And yeah, unfortunately, next season it's not going to be that special for me." Then, with something between a laugh and a sigh, maybe we should send messages to Nike.
Put pressure on them.
To be fair to Sabalenka, the frustration was completely legitimate. She was not demanding a private jet or a vanity fragrance line. She was asking for what every #1 in sports history has received from a major sponsor, the assurance that her kit was hers. That the dress she debuted on the biggest courts in the world had not already been shipped to a player ranked 87 spots below her. That she would walk onto Philippe Chatrier before anyone else walked onto any court wearing the same thing. That assurance was apparently not in her contract. And so when Roland Garros opened, the world #1 arrived wearing Nike's clay ballet crimson onesie, the dress her marketing team had positioned as her custom Roland Garros look. On May 24th, Russian world number 88 Oksana Selekhmeteva stepped onto a Roland Garros practice court wearing the exact same dress. Same color. Same silhouette. Same kit. Before Sabalenka had played her first match. An ex-post captured the moment with a precision that went viral immediately. Why they gave Sabalenka's custom kit to Oksana Selekhmeteva.
Hello. Who even is that?
317,000 views in under 48 hours. That question, who even is that, is unintentionally the entire story. Pull back to the other side of the draws across Paris. Eala arrived at Roland Garros in a Barbie pink Nike kit. Photographed. Captioned. Reposted across thousands of Filipino fan accounts under the hashtag #PrettyInPink. Her Instagram caption that week read simply, "On Wednesdays, we wear pink." No press release. No brand talking points. Just a 20-year-old in pink and a fan base that collectively lost its mind. The Sampaguita collection, Nike's custom by You line from the Oregon visit, had already done its work by then. Reportedly sold out globally in roughly 60 seconds of its release. The Nike by You Full Bloom Sampaguita tee was listed as no longer available on Nike. Calm within hours. eBay listings appeared within days. Resellers marking up a drop that Nike's own platform could no longer fulfill. Sabalenka's clay ballet dress also sold, but it was selling as a mass-market retail item. The same dress Oksana Selikmatova was already wearing at practice. One moved as a collectible, one moved as sportswear.
Now set those two facts side by side.
Monday, Sabalenka goes on camera asking fans to pressure Nike on her behalf. Tuesday, Eala's limited Sampaguita collection vanishes from shelves across the Asia-Pacific. Those are not separate stories. That is a brand telling you, in the clearest possible commercial language, exactly where it has placed its bets. The contract architecture, what the numbers actually mean. The pattern goes deeper than one tournament cycle. And the details, sourced to reporting by tennis fashion journalist Jessica Schiffer, who was in Paris in May 2026 with sources inside Nike's account management, are worth sitting with carefully. Eala's contract produced a bespoke cultural product, custom design, custom rollout, custom marketing, a collection anchored to a national identity that a specific and passionate demographic would queue up for at 3 a.m. Sabalenka's contract, per Schiffer's reporting source to people directly familiar with the negotiations, does not currently include those same provisions. The world number one does not have royalty rights to her kit sales. She does not have an exclusivity clause preventing retail distribution before she steps on court. She does not have the commercial architecture that Naomi Osaka had, and that, per the same sourcing, Nike has formally decided it will never offer again. The Osaka contract is a closed chapter. No current athlete is getting that deal. Sabalenka somehow finished 2025 ranked first in the world without the protections that Sharapova was given a decade and a half ago. That Sharapova precedent matters enormously here. In January 2008, Daniela Hantuchova wore the Nike dress Sharapova had been set to debut at the Australian Open. The fallout was immediate. Sharapova's team had the contract rewritten. From that point forward, none of her kits went on sale until she personally walked onto court. The dress was hers until she chose to share it. Sabalenka watched the same scenario play out 17 years later in Paris. The difference being that Sharapova had the leverage to fix it, and the world number one of 2026 apparently does not. Schiffer's reporting included a quote from a source inside Sabalenka's own sponsorship world that deserves to be read slowly. Most players would love to have their outfit sold at retail. She wants fans copying what she wears. That's the whole point of sports marketing. Read that again. A source inside the machinery of her own deal explaining patiently why the world number one's frustration is commercially understandable and commercially irrelevant. Sabalenka wants exclusivity. Nike wants volume. Those two things cannot coexist inside a standard athlete contract. And Sabalenka signed a standard contract. June 3rd, the press room, the red eyes, the sentence that said everything. Sabalenka walked into her Roland Garros quarterfinal against Diana Schneider as the defending champion and the tournament favorite. She won the first set 6-3. Clean, dominant, the kind of set that confirmed she was the best player in the draw. Then the second set went to a tiebreak. She let it slip, and whatever thread had been holding everything together finally visibly snapped. Final set, 6-0. She dropped the last 10 games of the match consecutively, conceding without winning a single game from 1-1 in the third. In the post-match press conference, she sat in front of the cameras, voice completely flat, and said, "Just want to quit tennis right now, but we'll see in a few days. Hopefully I'll get back on track mentally." Roland Garros's own official site described her as having gone into a dark place. In the same Paris draw, in the same tournament, wearing the same brand, the Filipina in the pink kit was still being photographed by fans outside the stadium. Still being reposted. Still generating the kind of organic, unmanufactured digital energy that no marketing budget can reliably produce. The contrast was not subtle. It was not incidental. It was the entire argument, expressed in real time, across 1 week of tennis in Paris. The roster context, why this is bigger than one controversy. This story is not happening in isolation. Nike's women's tennis roster is contracting in real time, and the departures are significant. Iga Swiatek signed with On Running. Coco Gauff moved to New Balance. Madison Keys is with Adidas. Mira Andreeva is with Adidas. Emma Raducanu has reportedly been in discussions with Uniqlo. The list of elite women's tennis players who chose to leave Nike, or never signed in the first place, grows with every renewal cycle. And the players staying are increasingly doing so under contracts that favor Nike's terms over the athletes' commercial interests. Into that landscape, Nike chose Eala. Not as a charity case. Not as a diversity footnote or a goodwill gesture towards Southeast Asian markets. As a commercial thesis, a calculated bet that a 20-year-old Filipina with a national fanbase capable of emptying a digital storefront in 60 seconds represents the brand's growth market for the next decade. Southeast Asia, the diaspora, a demographic that will queue for a Sampaguita tea at 3 a.m., not because it is apparel, but because it is recognition. Every Filipino fan who held that tea understood that Eala's face on a Nike product meant something their parents' generation never got to see. That is not sentiment. That is a market. And it is a market that the world number one's ranking alone cannot access. Sabalenka's Nike contract reportedly expires at the end of 2026. The conversation about its renewal, or its replacement, will happen in the direct shadow of a Roland Garros quarterfinal exit, a public complaint about kit quality, and a 60-second sellout from her teammate that Nike will cite in every future negotiation across the table. What to watch? The chapters that haven't happened yet. 6 days before Eala walked onto Philippe Chatrier in that pink kit and dismantled the number 6 seed, she had lost in straight sets in the first round at Strasbourg. A 6-3, 5-7, 3-6 defeat. Not a retirement, not a close loss that turned on a handful of points, a straight defeat in her final warm-up before the major. She did not dwell on it publicly. What she did 5 days later was walk out in Paris and beat Jasmine Paolini 6-1, 7-6, the third top 10 win of her career, in front of cameras that sent the images to every Filipino fan account on the planet within minutes. In the post-match press room, she was asked about expectations and pressure. She said, "You see me and you don't expect that I'm going to come up." Then, with a lightness that somehow landed heavier than a prepared statement ever could, "I really suck at all other sports." A Strasbourg loss on Monday. A top 10 upset in Paris on Saturday. In the pink kit. For the brand that flew her to Oregon while the world number one campaigned on Instagram. Now watch the Wimbledon kit reveal window in late June. Watch what Eala wears at Queen's Club, where she is confirmed in the WTA player field. Watch whether Sabalenka steps onto the grass at the All England Club in something designed specifically for her, or in a dress already available in every size at Nike. Those moments will tell you more about where the negotiations stand than any official statement either side releases. Because this is the question that defines the next 6 months. If you are Sabalenka's agent sitting across from Nike's team right now, do you take the renewal money and push harder for the exclusivity she's been demanding? Or do you leave the pink throne at Nike to whoever occupies it next, move to Adidas, and rebuild the commercial narrative from scratch? That is not a rhetorical question. The answer will reshape the sponsorship landscape of women's tennis for the next decade. What this story proved, across Oregon visits and Paris press rooms and 60-second sellouts and one very public moment of a world number one saying she wanted to quit, is that the number one ranking is not the same thing as the number one position inside a sponsor's marketing calendar. Sabalenka earned her ranking on court, completely legitimately, through 4 Grand Slam titles and a level of sustained dominance that demands respect. She has not yet been given the commercial infrastructure to match it. That is partly Nike's failure, partly a structural decision made when a certain era of tennis ended, and partly a negotiation that is not yet resolved into anything either side is satisfied with. The consequences are playing out in public, in real time, in Paris, and soon in London. The people who have been watching Eala for the past 2 years, who followed the Oregon visit, who tracked the Sampaguita drop, who stayed up for the Paolini match in the pink kit. They did not need the story to tell them what was coming. They already knew. The sellout clock simply confirmed what this audience recognized long before Nike's brand team put it in a press release.
Subscribe now.
Because the Wimbledon kit reveal is coming. The Queen's Club footage is coming. And Sabalenka's contract decision, when it finally becomes public, will be the most important chapter this story has produced yet. The throne is pink. The clock ran 60 seconds. And the next move belongs to Nike.